Ladies and gentlemen, D23 is here. Disney's ultimate fan event held every other year kicks off today in Anaheim, California. While this event features news and presentations across every segment of the company, with our focus on this channel being the Disney parks, you can imagine we are watching very closely for any new tidbits and everything new announced for the Disney parks at this year's fan event. The most newsworthy hour of Disney parks news we get every other year is the parks presentation, which is this weekend. This year it will be hosted by Neil Patrick Harris on Saturday night, streaming 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Disney+. And even though we haven't gotten to the big parks panel yet, Walt Disney Imagineering has already unveiled their pavilion on the convention show floor for the first day of the event today, featuring tons and tons of new models, sculptures, and video content, putting on display what is to come at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and all of their theme parks across the globe. We've got the full-scale model for Piston Peak National Park coming to the Magic Kingdom, new details on the update coming to the Carousel of Progress, new pieces of the puzzle for Monstropolis, Tropical America's Land, and even more from beyond Walt Disney World, with Avatar over at Disneyland Resort, Lion King coming to Paris, Space Mountain Earthrise over in Tokyo, and even an Avengers-themed Tower of Terror out in Hong Kong. All that and much more on the way. This is your first D23 2026 Special Edition Mickey Views News. Oh man, you guys, I pulled an all-nighter. I had to, going through every square inch of what was unveiled by Disney at the Imagineering Horizons exhibit at the Anaheim Convention Center. This is going to be more of a structured report as compared to our normal videos because there's just so much to get to and I need to get this out quickly, so I'll try to keep my commentary in check so I don't have to edit it for a million hours. If there's something in particular you want to jump to, you can find all of the chapters on the video timeline down below as we go, resort by resort, park by park, attraction by attraction. Jumping straight into the unveiling ceremony at the Imagineering Pavilion last night on the expo show floor, host of this weekend's Experiences Showcase, Neil Patrick Harris, was joined by Parks Chairman Thomas Maslam and President of Walt Disney Imagineering, Bruce Vaughn. Bruce Vaughn remarked that this is the largest pavilion Imagineering has ever hosted at one of these D23 events, and this year they themed their booth to the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. Bruce says this theme was chosen because the 64 World's Fair was about optimism and how creativity and technology can make a better future, and that is a spirit that is alive in Imagineering today. On that stage you can see them speaking on, there will be 35 pop-up events throughout the weekend featuring presentations from Imagineers on past, current, and future projects, as well as showcases of Disney's current research and development projects. Most newsworthy at this little unveiling was Neil Patrick Harris teasing something big coming at this weekend's panel that is Star Wars related. Listen to this.
There's something else happening Star Wars wise, isn't there?
Saturday there's going to be some announcement, very secret, but come back Saturday for that. But honestly,
I probably should have said that.
No, it's all good.
What that entails, let me know what you guys think. With that introduction complete, fans were unleashed into the interior of the exhibit, capturing everything Imagineering has to show today. Starting off at the flagship Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World, we got the complete scale model for the Cars-themed area, replacing the Rivers of America. This model looks quite a lot like that art that we got via blog post following the last big D23 Parks presentation in 2024, but perhaps a little warmer, a little more well thought through than that art that we got back at the time. Entering that portion of the pavilion, fans are greeted by this decorative board display with the Piston Peak National Park sign that'll greet guests when they enter the land later this decade. The first thing that you'll have to be thinking is, what is that? What is that thing there? That is a new Cars character that'll be featured in the land, in the national park. And given what we know about Piston Peak National Park, the model that we're about to look at and everything, I think we can make a solid guess that this new car is of a mountain goat, as it would appear in the Cars universe. One other detail of note on this display, you'll notice the emblem for the historic Ridge Run Trail, which is the trail you'll do a time time trial on as part of the main attraction in this land. It says that it was established in 1872, and the significance of that year is, in real life, is that was the year that Yellowstone National Park was demarcated. It was signed into law as a national park by President Ulysses S. Grant, establishing the national park's concept that we have expanded on to this day. Moving over to the giant scale model, above it we have this cool postcard of the Piston Peaks mountain range with the tagline, "The Wilderness Calls." Then we have the main attraction of this year's Imagineering Pavilion. This is the biggest thing in there. The giant scale model of this land where the rubber has finally hit the road, or the mud rather, and we can finally free ourselves from speculating over, will the land have water? How much will it have? What's really going where? Is this cartoon map real? What's going on? We finally know what we are getting with this Cars themed area in Frontierland at the Magic Kingdom. Getting you situated, we will take a walk around the outside of the land, the perimeter of it. So the entrance and exit to this land is located by the Haunted Mansion. So there's two pathways there that go into the actual area itself. And to get there, coming from Liberty Square, what you'll do is you'll go over towards the Haunted Mansion, and that's where you'll be on this pathway where you get to access everything that is in the Cars themed area, which includes an e-ticket off-roading thrill ride, as well as a smaller family attraction. If you instead go left from Liberty Square and you head down the Frontierland street, you can see here in the model what that'll look like. You'll have the existing street on the left side, and then you are going to have this snowy mountain on your right. The wooden overflow pathway that used to go over the rivers of America, as we can now see, is being modified, but still will be overlooking a river, a smaller rivers of America of sorts. The first thing you'll come across is this new small winding pathway with a bridge that'll be a great photo spot to capture your family on the trail as they exit the Piston Peak indoor portion of the attraction. Further down that overflow pathway, you can see there's a new stand that'll likely either be the replacement for Big Al's merchandise stand or perhaps the Westward Ho refreshment stand, both of which bit the dust this summer. Over at Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you can see the familiar boardwalk is staying over in that area, and the neighboring pathways, all of that will be staying as well. From there, you'll be looking at rockwork and trees when you look towards the Cars area. However, though, you will spot some ATVs with eyes flying by as they traverse wooden bridges and a muddy trail in that area. One detail of note over in this area is Splash Mountain. It features a retaining wall on that turnaround section, which in this model seems to appear minimized almost to the point of invisibility to make the overall riverfront area appear larger. Whether they are really going to go about doing that, we will see. It may just involve painting this retaining wall you have here. You can see in the construction site, painting that a blue color and then perhaps removing those rocks, something like that. I'm not sure that's really going to happen, but we will see. Heading over to Big Thunder is where you will be greeted by the geyser portion of Piston Peak National Park, which will really blend well with the Big Thunder area. And if you keep following that pathway north, you'll make your way up to the Villains themed land that we will learn more about this weekend, I strongly suspect. Rounding the corner to where you will enter Piston Peak National Park, we are back over by the Haunted Mansion, where in project plans we have known for a while about a mysterious building that is planned to be constructed behind the Haunted Mansion. When I first broke the news of Cars coming to the Magic Kingdom many moons ago, and actually many times even before that, when I was telling you guys about what my sources were telling me throughout the development of this era, all the different phases they went through, one rumored plan that was a common thread throughout much of that time was a Haunted Mansion themed parlor located behind the Haunted Mansion. It would sort of blend the Haunted Mansion into the Villains area beyond it. However, we heard way back in 2024 that plan had been shelved, that they weren't going to end up doing that. When this mystery building showed up in the permits for this big project that Disney's doing in the crater over here in the Magic Kingdom, that Haunted Mansion restaurant rumor was revived by a bunch of other creators, and some other ones doubted it and suggested, well, maybe it's an expanded queue for the Haunted Mansion. Well, Blog Mickey, upon seeing this model on the expo show floor, was quick to zoom right in on that area, capture this building, building and reveal to us on X what in fact it'll be. A restaurant? A new queue? No, it turns out that building is for restrooms. Heading into the land via the main entrance, which is marked with the Piston Peak National Park sign, you'll pass some banners advertising race day at the park and round the bend around where the family attraction sits in order to get to the large A-frame queue building for the e-ticket attraction. Inside of that building, Disney's previously teased, we'll find an animatronic park ranger, Ranger Autobahn Woodlore, based on Ranger Woodlore from the 1950s Disney shorts. This building is consistent from the original art that we got for the most part, definitely taking inspiration from the park first depicted in 2014's Planes, Fire, and Rescue. As we start following the ride path of the headliner attraction in this area of Frontierland, it would be a good time to take a look at some of the new concept art that is on display next to the scale model at the Imagineering Pavilion, so you can really understand what we are looking at here in the model. So in the first piece of art that is now on display next to the model, we appear to be looking near the start of the race, just past the big starting area where the cars are taking off on their time trial down the Ridge Run Trail, with the queue building visible in the background and a Racing Sports Network employee capturing the action, maybe even taking a PhotoPass photo. That's a possibility, while this misbehaving mountain goat stands on his head. In the second new piece of art, we have an ATV headed down the wooden bridge we saw along the Frontierland street by the looks of it, with a plane's hangar in the background there. And then in the third piece of art, new concept art, we have the finish for the attraction. And we'll get back to that one in a couple minutes, because that is not a purely new view, but rather an update of one that we got 2 years ago at the last big D23 Expo, and it really shows the difference over that time in terms of the development work that Imagineering's been doing at this attraction and some of the changes that they have made to it. The area of the attraction where you will board your ATV is hard to see in this model, but it seems to be in the hangar that is out the back of that A-frame queue area. From what we can gather, when you start on this attraction, you start heading back towards the pathway that you headed into in order to get to the attraction. Basically, you head back towards the Liberty Square direction, and then you start weaving your way up an elevation into the Piston Peak Mountain. This attraction will include a portion inside of Piston Peak, some indoor portions, and our sources indicate that Piston Peak is really a building that houses the maintenance area for this attraction. So it'll be for some of the cool show scenes as well as for maintaining the ride vehicles. Heading out of the mountain, you run along the Frontierland street, along that wooden bridge, which seems a little worse for wear there. You might notice there will likely be water effects in this area, and then you head behind or through a smaller mountain over by Big Thunder. This then brings you to the geysers, where you go over a tunnel, under a tunnel, twisting back around towards the main attraction building, and that's where you complete your rally race time trial we have concept art for, where Lightning McQueen and Mater are in their RSN booth welcoming you back and narrating the whole adventure. Now, throughout this journey, looking at the model, you may have noticed, no, the ATVs are not trackless. In the concept art, you don't see tracks, that is true, but in the scale model, you do. They're there. But more notably, and this is something that I mentioned in our Big Rivers of America video last year, because this attraction is landlocked with guest pathway all the way around, and they have limited space to work with, you can't really do the ATV winding, twisting sort of vibe and simultaneously use the high-speed Test Track or Radiator Springs Racers slot car ride system, which typically utilizes wider turn radiuses, especially when you're doing the rally race thing where two vehicles are racing each other. Double tracking that would really eat up a lot of the space that you have. It would be a very short ride, and because of the width of the track that you would have if you had them going side by side, it would mean that you would have a lot less theming. Especially for a national park, it would be a little strange. And Imagineers have resolved all of this by utilizing a single rail track track in this scale model, which is the big change from what we saw previewed at D23 2 years ago. As far as we can see in this model, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going in a straight line, single file, doing a time trial. Here is the art for the finish that we got 2 years ago, when you can see the plan was that you were racing other guests to the finish side by side, and here is the updated art, which along with the single file rail guided system that we see in the model, shows that now instead of racing other guests or other cars during this attraction, you will instead be doing a time trial, a rally race where you try to get the new fastest lap on the off-road circuit. Next, we have the C or D ticket family attraction coming to the land, the other attraction in the land previously referred to as a small family attraction. Some folks online were really over-engineering this one lately. They were saying, you know what Disney's gonna do? They're gonna do Disney planes, and it's gonna be this new kind of spinner ride, this new patented technology, or something like that. And no, they're not doing that. It's still just gonna be the Cars Race Rally format from Disneyland Paris that Disney originally put in the concept art that we got 2 years ago, where you have turntable car vehicles, and that is what it's going to be. Except it's going to be themed a little bit differently. We'll get into that. You basically have Cars teacups here, but this one's going to be a little bit more advanced, because what's new today is we finally know the theme here, the premise for this attraction. The family attraction in Piston Peak will star Miss Fritter from the Demolition Derby scene in Cars 3, with a possibly animatronic Miss Fritter towering over you and a sign above her that says it's Fritter time. Notable in this model is you can see there are cars on podiums that are spraying water or mist or smoke towards the riders. Likely mist, I would guess, of the three of those in actuality when we see this implemented. And there are also similar features emanating on the ride platform from the oil barrels. So this could be a pretty fun attraction, and possibly one where you do get wet. This smaller family attraction in the land, it really makes me think how Imagineering is going to theme mud on this attraction, as well as the main attraction, the e-ticket attraction in the land, the Rally Racers. Because the one other part of this exhibit, this area of the Imagineering Pavilion I haven't showed you yet, is we got these ride vehicle maquettes for the rally race. And you can see the tires and all, they look muddy. Here with the family attraction too, it's mud themed, and there's water features, so it should seem muddy, right? Now, we can assume that there really isn't going to be anything dirt in this land. It's all going to be themed concrete and plaster and paint, because you know, the mechanisms and everything, they're not going to work with tons of mud and dirt everywhere. So I'm really wondering how Disney is going to pull off that visual effect convincingly. That'll be interesting to see. Just something that I was thinking about there. With that, I want to say congratulations. You've made it through the Piston Peak portion of today's unveilings. However, there is one bright spot here with this that I would still like to highlight. And that is that obviously somebody at Imagineering heard us. Replacing the Rivers of America entirely is still a huge letdown to many of us. To think that Miss Fritter is going to be staring at you while you're waiting in line for the Haunted Mansion, or a snowy Piston Peak will be towering over you in 1800s Frontierland. It's not quite the stuff all of us imagined when we thought of upgrades to the Magic Kingdom, right? However, for one, you will notice Imagineers modified the mountain in the land, so a regular peak now obscures the cartoony Piston Peak from Liberty Square. Also, you probably noticed tons of trees and rock work surrounding this land as a sort of berm to obscure some of the most cartoony aspects of it from the highly themed non-cartoony attractions nearby. The Hall of Presidents, Big Thunder Mountain, Haunted Mansion, all of that. Not perfectly though, since the ATVs with eyes also do show up along the perimeter in some places around the ride path beyond the berm. But the silver lining here I really wanted to highlight is, and something that should make Tom Sawyer fans crack a smile here, is Imagineers clearly reincorporated major aspects of Tom Sawyer Island into this new area. For one, this building by the family attraction looks quite a lot like our former Fort Langhorne and Walt's original Fort Wilderness, with the architecture style, the lookout portion there especially, but the building in this entire model that I already love the most, that stood out to me the most immediately when I looked at this model, is the one that Lightning McQueen and Mater are in when they are doing their sports casting. That building is very obviously a tribute to Harper's Mill from our Tom Sawyer Island. It's basically the same building with slightly different dimensions. It even includes what looks like will be a functioning water wheel, only difference now is that water wheel is a Lightyear tire, which really kind of encapsulates the fan divide on this one. Some of us want the Disneyland Americana, the water wheel, the nature, the stories of the time and the place. Other fans are good with taking that and sort of using it as a background for the latest intellectual properties that the executives want to insert wherever, turning things like a water wheel into a Lightyear tire. With that being said though, I really do love that they included some of the park's DNA and some of Walt's DNA in this plan. So that is Piston Peak National Park. Take of it what you will. Regardless of what you think, hats off to the model builders for this incredibly detailed model. I'm sure that took months and months to put together. It is really, really good. And thank you to the Imagineers that worked in those homages over the last couple of years and further developed the landscape to try to best accommodate, to try to best triage really what was a not so ideal formulation the executives handed down to them. Next up at the Magic Kingdom, we have the Villains themed land that'll be north of Piston Peak, which we don't have to spend nearly as much time on here in this video because all we got on the expo show floor in the Imagineering Pavilion booth was a wall with a video display of Imagineers touring France, capturing some reference material of the Art Nouveau style that they want to incorporate into this land, which we saw previously at prior events. What's new here are a handful of dimensional design early explorations, as Imagineering calls them, little clay models of some of the dark forest nature that we will encounter when we are entering the land and walking around the land. In particular, these spooky, angry trees, some even have faces, it seems, which may in and of itself be a tribute to some of Disney's early films and shorts, which these are quite reminiscent of, I think you could say. Last up in this year's Imagineering Pavilion, as far as the Magic Kingdom is concerned, we have a display on the changes currently in the works for the Carousel of Progress over in Tomorrowland. This exhibit features the poster we previously got with the Carousel of Progress overhaul announcement, Rover down below. Flanking Rover are John and Sarah mannequins showing off the animatronic costuming. Very interesting there, I would say. And then on the left side of the exhibit, there are some bits about Act 1 of the show, where we will have our first look at John in a 1960s kitchen with Rover, very reminiscent of the Carousel of Progress we know and love that Disney is currently taking out of the building. So in this new version of the attraction, after the new introduction from Walt Disney in the pre-show scene, that loading scene, we will then pick up in this new Act 1, this new scene that you're seeing a look at here, a model of it here, and then by Act 4, which is the other side of this exhibit here, they don't show us Acts 2 and 3 in this exhibit, we will be in the future in Act 4, which is the model that you're now looking at here, where it's Sarah in the future scene in a mid-century inspired future living room with a conversation pit, an Incredibles 2 inspired fireplace, and in the 3D scene printout above the dimensional model, we can see the full scene with the nearby kitchen in its familiar location in that future scene, and there's also a spiral staircase which looks cool. Previously we got concept art of this final act, which seemed very clearly based on Disney's recent Fantastic Four film, some of the characters and different things in there. We are expecting to get the art from the middle two scenes during the presentation this weekend. Heading over to Epcot, there's not a word on Epcot in this Imagineering exhibit. So Brayden, why are you talking about it? Well, I do want to mention Epcot because, well, it's my favorite, but also because in preview media for the Disney Experiences Showcase this weekend, you can see on the stage at the Honda Center that they've put together here, which is very clearly inspired by this new Carousel of Progress we just talked about, by the way. Definitely doing that mix of mid-century futurism kind of thing. Anyways, in the background there, there is somebody blurred out on the screen back there. And I'm not the only one who noticed this. I did some digging on this, and if it's a coincidence, it would be a crazy one for all time. Because in the background there, that connection of blobs really looks like a Disney press photo, and I don't have the actual press photo, but definitely one that Disney took at the time, of this Dreamfinder from the 2013 D23 Expo. That is the outfit that he was wearing there. That was what he looked like with the very well-defined beard and everything. That is who it looks like is blurred out in the background there in this promotional content promoting this year's parks panel. Now, some people say this is a stretch. My question would be, explain it some other way. What do you think that is instead? Is it just the coincidence of all time? Maybe we're reading into it too much. It's possible. But if Disney were to do an Easter egg, you know, usually people will write me and they'll say, Brayden, is this a reference? And it'll be like a piece of merchandise or something that Consumer Products put out, or you know what I mean? Or like, it'll just be something totally random. It's like, no, Disney wouldn't tease a future project like that. Like, that doesn't really make sense. Here, this is the exact time and place. If Disney were to put in an Easter egg teasing an upcoming announcement, this is where they would put it. So I think it's completely plausible that this is teasing that perhaps something is finally happening to the Imagination Pavilion at Epcot. I have no insider source saying this is the case, so we will have to find out this weekend, but I really wanted to put that on your radar. Next in the Imagineering Horizons exhibit on the show floor, we have an area dedicated to Monstropolis. In this area, we have a bulletin board, some video displays showing art and video that we've previously seen, but we also got some new footage of facade testing and coaster support columns in there, and then there are 4 new maquettes of some funny looking characters that'll be featured in the new land. These include a 3-eared splitting hare, a 3-eyed monster squirrel, and the 2-headed pigeon previously featured in Monsters University. However, instead of just brushing right past it like many members of the press did, we'll take an extra second here and look at this Monstropolis area, because that inconspicuous billboard over on the wall there is worth a closer look, because on it we have some brand new art for the land. One piece of art shows the front of the former Muppet Vision 3D, now the Glob Theater, where now we can finally make out what the marquee says. And the marquee here says, "Welcome to Monstropolis with Sully and Mike," which may very well be the name of the new show that'll be inside the former Muppets Theater. Although I'm kind of wondering why it's "Welcome to Monstropolis with Sully and Mike." Isn't it usually said Mike and Sully? It's kind of random there. Maybe this is just something in the concept art we shouldn't read too much into it. Also on this board, you'll spot some concepts for 2 mouthpiece saxophones, bus stops, seating areas, Monstropolis streetlight concepts, and on the bottom, there are some more facade drawings, including Harry Hewson's The Restaurant Coming to the Land, as well as some reference material from the film related to that restaurant. And it seems that the Tomorrowland Transit Authority from our Tomorrowland also exists in Monstropolis as the Monstropolis Transit Authority. I wonder if that's just a funny thing they put on the board there for us, some fan service, or if that'll actually be something in the land. Very interesting stuff. Getting to the Animal Kingdom portion of the Imagineering Pavilion, we have an exhibit for the Tropical Americas land opening next year, which is crazy to say. That is pretty close. Starting off with the Indiana Jones attraction portion, in this small space you'll find a scale model of the new facade, and nearby there is video footage playing of the work being done right now to bring this facade to life, right on top of the former Dino Institute facade. Newsworthy in this section is some video footage that is on the wall there that is showing the inside of the dinosaur attraction as it currently is, where you can see it has been gutted and the dinosaurs, they have been removed. Disney hates dinosaurs, we know. Universe of Energy, all the dinosaurs gone. Dinosaur, all the dinosaurs gone. Dinoland, forget it. It's crazy. The dinosaurs have been removed, scaffolding is up, and Imagineers are right now bringing to life the Indiana Jones re-theme of this attraction inside of it as we speak, and that is set to open next year. So we'll be finding out more about this in the very near future, I suspect. Getting to the Encanto portion of the exhibit, first you'll notice this donkey, I think it is, and there's also a capybara, and these are future animatronic characters that'll be featured during the Encanto-themed dark ride that is coming to life as we speak at Tropical America's inside Disney's Animal Kingdom. Giving you a better idea of what this attraction will be like on the inside and where we'll see animatronics like the ones I just showed you, there is a scale model of a scene from during the ride on display taking place during Antonio's gift ceremony. Most newsworthy on Encanto in this pavilion is we have these models now of the ride vehicles, which appear very boxy, and they have an elevated second row. And this is more or less exactly how the trackless vehicles Disney purchases from Oceaneering typically end up looking like. The trackless vehicles that we've seen Disney implement, that's usually the format that we see. And that's noteworthy because I've told you guys previously, this is an Omnimover attraction. That's what I've been told. So people are debating this online. I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it being trackless or Omnimover. Taking a look at this ride vehicle here, it does seem quite trackless to me, but I have previously heard it is Omnimover. So pay attention this weekend for further announcement or clues towards exactly how this ride will work, trackless or Omnimover. And remember, there are Imagineers walking around on the inside of this pavilion throughout the weekend, so I'm sure that some fan might be able to get out of an Imagineer what ride system we are looking at here. It is here that I should mention, and this is not something that's in the pavilion itself, but very newsworthy right now, is Disney recently filed a patent for ride scenes where the scenery around you is situated, it is angled to make you think that you are on an incline, but you're actually just moving straight across the ground. You're not on an incline at all, you're on a totally flat grade. And what's interesting is, in this patent filing, the illustrations of it look quite a bit like what we expect for one of the show scenes inside of the casita during this Encanto attraction. So while this art is not part of the exhibit itself, this patent may just be yet another new look at this Encanto ride that is opening next year in Tropical Americas. Last up in the Tropical Americas exhibit, we have some new sculptures of the characters you'll have to ride as part of the family carousel in the land. We have Chispy, Pua, Eeyore, and Nigel as the characters Imagineering decided to display at this exhibit. These will be ones that you'll be able to ride as part of the family carousel, and there's also some video on the wall in the area showing the current progress on the carousel in real life, which is coming along quite nicely. Moving to Disneyland Resort, on display at the Imagineering Pavilion are a bunch of upcoming projects for Disney California Adventure. First up, there is the Coco area. Here there is a wall where visitors to the Imagineering Pavilion, they can write their favorite Disneyland memory, and then those written memories will be put into the foundation of the upcoming Coco attraction, if you can believe it. The Coco-themed attraction coming to DCA is already under construction backstage. It'll be a boat ride. However, at the Imagineering Pavilion, what we got for it is simply a statue of Hector, which may be on display outside of the house where you enter the attraction. That is the current speculation on that, and we don't have much more detail right now. The big news at Disney California Adventure this weekend is Avatar is back on the table. Inside the Imagineering Pavilion, we have this large new model of the facade for the attraction we saw art of at the last D23, the one 2 years ago. But now, instead of a piece of art, it is this giant model with a lot of dimensional detail, and you can see the ride vehicle there. You can see guests in the outdoor portion of the ride in a boat there, and what's really noteworthy is the model of the boat itself. There is a larger model of just the boat, and it is ginormous, this actual boat, as you can see here. That is 6 rows, 5 guests across, so possibly 30 guests per vehicle during this boat ride, which is going to be some insane capacity there. And there's even some speculation that this attraction could also be coming to Disney Adventure World out in Paris, although that is just speculation online at this time. Last up at Disneyland Resort, we have a new scale model of their Avengers Campus. That is on display here at the Imagineering Pavilion, and specifically it is there to highlight some new attractions that are coming soon. One is crazy. The smaller one, it's one that we've heard about previously at these events. It is the Stark Flight Lab, where guests will sit in gyrokinetic pods that move along a track, and KUKA arms, robotic arms with different personalities, will pick up your ride vehicle and move you around and do all sorts of stuff. You can see your seats for that attraction here in the exhibit. They have a model of those here. And then the attraction beyond it in the area model, the big boy there, that is Avengers Infinity Defense. While not much is to be seen here in this model for that one, we know that the Avengers will be facing off with King Thanos during the ride, and it is expected to use a motion-based ride vehicle format with a mix of screens and practical sets. So you'll have a dynamic vehicle that moves along through a bunch of scenes. Quickly stopping over at Disneyland Paris, the Imagineering Pavilion this year has a blacklight scene study for one of the scenes during the Lion King log flume attraction currently under construction at Disney Adventure World. Along with the ride vehicle next to it, you'll certainly pick up some of that Tiana's Bayou Adventure vibe here with the blacklight illuminated artificial forest, the foliage along a boat ride track with intermittent animatronic scenes. We also have a model of Rafiki's tree here, a baobab tree that includes a small stage, possibly for character meet and greets and such, that will be outside of the attraction. As far as the international news goes, the big attraction at D23 this year everyone is talking about is Space Mountain Earthrise coming to Tokyo Disneyland. This completely new Space Mountain, built from the ground up, is a launch coaster that'll launch guests from Earth into deep space. We have a model for it here, and it looks absolutely wild. This attraction is quite expensive. I think Tokyo said they invested around $600 million in it, which is quite a chunk of change there. This new Space Mountain will feature onboard ride audio, and the exhibit includes a model for the ride vehicle where you can see it is 2 across and 6 rows deep, spread across 3 cars along the train. The video playing above the models in this area includes a first look at the load area, where you can get an idea of the theming here that intends to combine the old Tomorrowland with something new, a philosophy embodied by this plaza icon we have a new model of at the exhibit, which Tokyo Disney says symbolizes mankind and nature existing in harmony. That is what will sit outside of the attraction. Also in Tokyo Disneyland, as highlighted in this Imagineering display, replacing their Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters out there will be a new Wreck-It Ralph attraction previously announced, which we now have the name for, Sugar Rush Sweet Rescue. In this area of the Imagineering Pavilion, we have some video of the ride vehicle sculpt, them doing the ride vehicle sculpt there, designing the ride vehicle itself, what that'll look like. One of the theming elements during the attraction, we have this lighting thing going on here, as well as Imagineers playing around with the gameplay that guests will experience during this Wreck-It Ralph evolution of Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters. And this makes me think of Stitch's Great Escape, because for many years, as part of our Tomorrowland update that we were supposed to get, it was rumored that we were going to get something like this in the Stitch's Great Escape theaters. Some sort of dome, projection dome kind of thing, where you have some sort of gamepad or blasters maybe, where you sit in that circular room and you're in some sort of Sugar Rush themed game. That was a rumor for a long time. Maybe we'll finally get that announced at D23, but that's such an old shelved project. Who knows, but just something I wanted to throw out there. Heading to China, at Hong Kong Disneyland, we have a scale model of their Marvel area, which sits next to the Disneyland one we just looked at. Out in Hong Kong, there is a new Spider-Man attraction in the works, but the news today is we have a look at the model for their drop tower, which is shaped shaped like Tower of Terror, only Avengers themed, which wasn't something I ever expected us to see, but that is exactly what Hong Kong is getting, and now we have a physical model of it that you can go see in Anaheim, California at the Imagineering booth. Pretty crazy. Speaking of Spider-Man, over at Shanghai Disney Resort, they are receiving a Spider-Man themed land. Over there, the track for the Spider-Man coaster was recently completed, and here at the Imagineering Horizons exhibit, on display is some of the street art that will be featured inside of the land, as well as some accompanying video of them putting that all together using some spray paint. Last up in the Imagineering Pavilion, there is a video wall showing previously seen promotional footage of Abu Dhabi Disneyland Theme Park and Resort. That is a working label, by the way. The official resort name is yet to be announced, but Disney has registered many domain names, or the company they're working with, the Morale Group. There's a bunch of options. Personally, my favorite of the options that they've registered domain names for, I think, is Disneyland Arabia. That sounds really cool. Let me know which of those you guys like. Disney saying, hey, we're still working on this, which is a little bit newsworthy, I guess you can say. They put a little section in there in the Imagineering exhibit for it, so you know that there is a team. There are a lot of people that are still working on this project, which, given the events of the last year, people were thinking, is this really going to happen? Disney saying, yes, it is. And that does it for what Disney unveiled at the Imagineering booth on the D23 2026 show floor. Let me know what you guys thought of all of it in the comments below. I don't have much time to reminisce or really get into a lot of analysis on everything we just talked about. I have to get this video out. I want to thank our patrons over on Patreon for their continued support, and for all of you watching, thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe with those notifications on so you don't miss all of the Disney Parks news that'll continue coming this weekend. It is the Disney News Super Bowl, and I'll keep it on lock here, bringing you guys all the news. You can follow Sir Brayden over on X if you want some play-by-play updates, little reactions from me as we go along, as well as Mickey Views across all of your favorite social media platforms. Thank you so much for watching. For the Mickey Views Magic Studio, this is Brayden. I'll talk to you very soon. Have a magical day.